I'll just start by telling you a little bit about who we are and what we do, because a number of you have asked, and then go on to tell you a few stories from our experience. But CFF is a loan and financing fund for charities and nonprofits, and I'm actually here from the Community Forward Fund Assistance Corporation, which is a registered fund manager with the Ontario Securities Commission. We have investors, many people in the room who are our investors as well, and we began in the spring. We have about $1.6 million at this point of investments in loans for the charitable and nonprofit sector and $5 million in review. So we're really pleased at what we've been able to do with our collaboration partners, a number of foundations and some private sector individuals who have invested in the future of the sector working with us. So that's just a hint, a little bit about who we are and what we do, and I'm happy to have a more of a discussion about that. But I wanted to start by telling you a story. It may be a story that you've heard pieces of before, and with apologies to Clara Miller, but Sister Mary Margaret, who runs a large homeless shelter, food bank, and employment center, was meeting with one of her organization's financial supporters. And her donor praised her for her great work, all the great work she'd done in the past year, but having seen the writing on the wall, she felt it was time for some tough love. Sister, she was told, you just have to diversify your funding base to make sure you can be secure in the future. The sister was helpfully provided with a list of potential revenue and corporate sources that she and her organizations could pursue. So she went back to her office and added this document to the stack of reports that had been prepared for the 67 foundations and government contracts she already held, as well as her 5 social enterprises, which, while breaking even, hadn't yet, after 3 years, turned a profit. And as she carefully added the document to the mound of papers, they began to slide, and the sister was buried in a pile of good intentions and well-meaning advice. At the Community Forward Fund, we've spoken with hundreds of organizations who've lived the Good Sisters experience, and I suspect if we did a survey in this room, we'd find the same story. Some of what we hear includes, we had a successful pilot project, but sorry, funding is available only for new program innovation. Go start a social enterprise, diversify your funding base, find a corporate sponsor. I've lived it myself, having been privileged to work in the sector for many years, and I have no difficulty imagining why everyone is looking for an absolute answer to this issue. The one thing that can be done to fix financing for the sector, but unfortunately, quick fixes only work in infomercials. I wish I could offer a ShamWow moment for the sector, but I haven't got one. Smarter people than I, many in this room, have made their own search and they're still looking. I think we need to accept that the good and talented people of the social sector, funders and providers alike, are doing everything they can to fix funding gaps. This is not about them so much as it's about a system that doesn't work in its current form. So if we accept that, what do we do? First, let's stop believing in the magic bullet. Starting a social enterprise, which for most will be a 7-year journey to break even, let alone make a profit, is not by itself the fix. Diversifying funding when you have dozens, if not hundreds, of reporting requirements is not by itself the fix. Businesses in the private sector, where I've also worked, don't just arrive fully formed as profit-making entities. They typically have a product or a service that's in high demand or can create a demand a la Steve Jobs, or they have a support structure with economies of scale, not to mention business subsidies and tax breaks to support them. And here's the key, they do nothing else. I've just come back from Silicon Valley. The investors on Sand Hill Row would tell you that the key to startup success is focus and sticking to what you do best. And Sister Mary Margaret is never going to make it because her focus is rightly on areas where the market has failed and requires a different type of innovation and not on the business side of her social enterprises. If we truly want and expect organizations to find new revenue sources and capitalize on their opportunities, they have to be offered a way to focus on what they do best. While there's some fantastic services to help organizations through startup and starting the revenue generation process, there also needs to be a structure to support groups during the operations phase. I've come to believe we need a holding company of sorts, or perhaps several, that can be of a scale and size to capitalize on all those economies of scale among all these groups, to do the business end of social enterprises, including facilities development and management, finding contracts or buyers for products, marketing, order fulfillment, and business planning. This would contribute not only to allowing organizations that all-important focus on what they do best, it would provide scalability and contribute to an earlier profit opportunity so that revenue generation can be real. I realize it's not a quick fix or the only thing that needs to be done. The sector is diverse and incredibly complex, and it will take a variety of ideas and options to finance it. And that's the crux of the matter, really. As every good entrepreneur knows, to make people want to invest, you need to tell a good story, highlighting your successes. And the sector has a great story to tell, and it's time to be loud and proud. I'd like to end by telling you another story, one that came out of our workshops at the United Way in Hamilton. At our workshops, we tell success stories about groups that have used loans or other kinds of non-grant financing in interesting ways to expand their opportunities. We then invite participants to work together and focus on the needs of each group to find opportunities and options for them. One woman came up to me at the end of one of our workshops and said, "You know, I generally hate coming to these things. I'm so tired of dividing up and competing for a smaller and smaller section of the pie. But today wasn't about that. It was about expanding what's possible, not limiting it. I feel hopeful for the first time in a long time and a little less exhausted. That's why I do what I do." Hope is a great motivator, and none of it is easy. And as there are no quick fixes, there are a lot of people working on small pieces of the puzzle and starting to come together to coalesce on the important pieces to make it all work. There are hundreds of innovative people in the sector, and we've shown that we can do it. And I really look forward to working with you on this and other issues. Thanks very much.